Welcome back to All Yankees Talk. I'm Delilah Bork.
I'm Jordan Lorenz, and I will be at the Yankees-Pirates game tonight. Very excited to see Max Fried take the bump, and it's my first Yankee spring training game, as I said on the last episode. But we got a lot of talk today before I can get there.
Yeah, it's hopefully going to be a good game. I think that the first thing that we wanted to talk about today and bring up is new Yankees pitcher Ryan Weathers' most recent outing, which was not what you want to see.
No, it was pretty bad, all things considered. His first outing was good. Like, there was really nothing wrong with what he did in game one, and then game two just New York Mets, he threw 2 innings. That's all he was able to do is get 2 innings out of this one. His line is just terrible. 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them were earned. Struck out 3. Hey, that's not bad. 3 strikeouts, but then walked 2. So, I mean, the walks were once again an issue. 2 walks in 2 innings is certainly not great, but it's kind of one of those things where, again, you're in spring training, and a lot of people were complaining that he didn't have great defense yesterday or anything like that, but only one of the runs was unearned. So how bad was the defense really? You kind of have to question, because I know he's not playing with the big league guys, especially with the World Baseball Classic going on. He's not necessarily playing with the big leaguers that he would be having usually, but still at the end of the day, like, that's just a terrible line. His ERA is through the roof right now. I mean, it's after that game, it's sitting at 7.94. And again, very small sample size, only 5 2/3 innings. But it's just interesting because he did so well in the first game. He went those 3 innings. He struck out 5, I believe, in that set. But now he's given up 8 hits in 5 2/3. And the problem is, you have given up so much for this guy. You gave up not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 prospects. And I know the Yankees are very high, or they have a lot of pitching prospects right now, but they didn't trade pitching prospects. They traded outfielders and infielders. So that's kind of where it's like, hey, this might not look so good in the long run. And obviously, again, it's still very early. You don't want to overreact. But when you lose 10-4 to an in-state rival, it was the New York Mets this happened against. It's just not great, all things considered. Weathers had a very, very bad game coming off a killer first impression. I mean, he dominated in game one when he pitched. He got the win. But now regressing big time is not where you want to be, especially at this point in spring. You'll have a couple more starts to be able to get under your belt, but it was just a disaster all around. Ryan Weathers, not great.
Yeah, Weathers kind of strikes me as a bit of a boom or bust player. That sort of seemed to be the vibe when he was on the Marlins, even though that was a little bit more last season, it was a little bit more he's either doing pretty well or he's injured and he can't play at all. So I'm kind of not surprised that he went from having a start that made people say, whoa, maybe actually 4 prospects for this guy was a steal, to I think that the individual game ERA was like 22, which is just ludicrous. So I think that it's interesting, it's concerning. I also think that sometimes in baseball you're just having a bad day and there's nothing you can do to get around it. So I'll be curious to see how the rest of spring training goes, because I get the sense from him that he really is looking to have a great season and really wants to improve. But it's certainly troubling us, and I think it's hard watching it be the Mets,
Yeah.
it's such a fun rivalry every summer, and I think that having such a dismal performance against a team that has all of this sort of back and forth with yours is a struggle. But I think more than anything, you just have to be on to the next. It's spring training. They're still working things out, and certainly the Yankees missing some of their best players on the field is not going to be helpful either. So I definitely think that it's something to watch out for, but not necessarily something to hit the panic button about.
Yeah. I also think just long term, I really don't know what this team's plan with him is, because, like you said, the injuries, the everything like that. He's been in the big league since 2021. He's never thrown triple digit innings. He's never gotten to 100. The most he got was 94.2, and that was as a rookie in 2021. So long term, I don't really I still was a little baffled by the trade when it went down, but I think when you really like look at the numbers and look at kind of where this team is heading, I think it's even more baffling because yeah, you could move them to the bullpen, but that's what you've already got your bullpen guys for. You know, Rodon and Cole are going to be back eventually, but I just really don't understand why you would trade 4 prospects for seemingly a 2 to 3 month rental. Like it still seems a little just out of this world to me because yeah, he threw 86 innings in 2024, but he pitched in 8 games last year. Like that's all. So the sample size is so small. It's just it seemed like a really desperate trade at the time, and now fans they're pretty justified in being upset about it, especially after that second game. But again, it's only 2 games, so we're still going to give him time. We're going to be patient, but I don't know.
I wouldn't really hate if they moved him to the bullpen,
Yeah.
especially if it happens around May, June, if he has some maybe some games that start off really well, but then sort of peter out where he needs to be throwing for less innings. I wouldn't hate for him to be sort of like a middle of the game. It's not closing games, but he's
Mhm.
coming in for innings maybe 6 and 7. I just think that the Yankees need to be doing something to address the bullpen, and if it's deciding, oh, Ryan Weathers can be in the bullpen, now that we have our other amazing starters back. I don't see anything wrong with it, but it's just he's just really untested, I think. Like you were saying, he hasn't pitched really anywhere close to a full season. Last year he barely pitched at all because he just kept getting injured. And it seems like that won't be the case this year, especially given the fact that he's not, yeah, knock on wood, especially given the fact that he's not starting the year injured. He's perfectly healthy. So I think that, it's not like we can say for sure, oh, this guy is so terrible. Why did they trade for him? It's just sort of like we have no idea. So seeing him play so poorly is just worrying. And no one wants to wait and see. No one wants to be like, all right, well, in 10 days, they'll let him throw 2 more innings and we can reassess then. So that's not good. But something that is good is Will Warren's outing on Saturday was really impressive. He threw for 4 innings against Washington. He had 2 hits and 1 run, but it was not an earned run, which makes his ERA for the game 0.87. And he had 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. So I think a really good game from Warren. I believe they won that one as well, if I recall correctly.
That one they lost 3-0, but
Oh, dang.
it wasn't his fault, so don't worry. He didn't get
Sure.
the loss or anything like that. But yeah, or he did get the loss actually. That's interesting, even though it was unearned. Wow. But he went 4 innings. So that was the deepest any Yankees pitcher has gone this spring. They started so hot. They were winning, what was it, like 8 games in a row or something like that. They dropped their last 2, but both were on the road. So again, spring training wins and losses don't matter. But Warren's performance really was fantastic. I mean, he's thrown the most innings out of anyone on this team now, 10 in the third. And honestly, it's not even close. For a starter, Luis Gil's got 8, and he's the next closest. Elmer Rodriguez was 6. So obviously, there's going to be some guys that catch up to him. Paul Blackburn has thrown 8 in the third. He's also pitched in 3 games. He started 2 of them. So I think starting pitching wise, Will Warren has been the star of the show. Like he has just done terrific. He's got 10 strikeouts in those 10 in the third innings. Yeah, he did pick up that loss now, but overall with an 8.87 ERA, like this guy is doing something special. And I think the Yankees are going to kind of want to strike while the iron's hot because they know he's still super young. And like when you're a 25-year-old rookie or whatever he was last year, like you kind of come into things with a whole different mentality. Like there's guys who are debuting at 19, 20, 21 years old and they're just thrown into the fire. Warren had to kind of work his way up. I mean, he's a righty, which is great because we've talked time and time again about how many lefties this team has, but he did really good last year. I mean, coming off 2024 where he started 5 games, last year starts 33 games, goes 9-8 with a 4.44 ERA. Nothing wrong with what he did last year. I think from what you would expect, he was really fantastic. And now from what we've seen in spring, like he's just going to keep going. Like he's been doing really, really well. And when you see a guy like Ryan Weathers struggling, and then you have a guy like Warren the day prior who's doing great, like you can't ask for much more. And it's interesting too because Boone sent these guys on the road. Like this is a 4-hour bus trip going on the other side of Florida, and you don't really do that a lot with established guys or big league players, but Warren needed a couple extra reps, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day, and he delivered. Like this was a really sound performance against the Nationals, and like I said, no other Yankees pitcher has gone 4 innings, so it's all about the pitch count. He needed 30 pitches to get through the first 3, then ended up being pulled in at the end of the 4th, but yeah, very impressed from what we've seen from Warren. And this is a guy where, hey, if you need to move Weathers to the bullpen, Warren seems just fine in that starting role. And having a surplus of starting pitchers, as we've said, is certainly not an issue at all.
Yeah, I think that Warren is interesting because there are so many teams where he would be a bit much flashier pitcher for them. I think that he sort of falls to the wayside, especially last season with um, Carlos Rodon. They had just signed Max Fried this time, not just signed him, but he hadn't played with the Yankees yet this time last year. Then Cam Schlittler did really amazing, and there were a lot of expectations for Luis Gill because he had won 2024 Rookie of the Year. So I think that Warren sort of became someone that people don't talk about all that much. But there are so many other teams where it'd be like, oh, this is our second or third best pitcher in Will Warren. And I think that he probably is feeling some pressure from how deep the Yankees are in starting pitching. It doesn't feel like it with Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole injured, but once you get to the All-Star break, those guys are going to be back. And it's actually going to be, I think, really difficult to pick who is going to be in the regular rotation. So I think that Warren knows that. And every opportunity he gets is an audition to say, hey, when Rodon and Cole are back, and then you have Fried and Schlittler, no injuries, hopefully, the fifth guy should be me. So I think that it's really promising for him, and I think it's really good for the Yankees too because they need to figure that out, not just in spring training, the first few games of the year, but pretty much until May, June. And that is going to make the pitching, I think, really interesting through spring training and through the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those cases too where I mean I don't know the schedule memorized, but like sometimes you'll have stretches where you're playing 10 days in a row, you're playing 12 days in a row. So those stretches you're going to want 6 starting pitchers because you're going to give a guy an extra break. You're not going to want to have anything crazy happen in the middle of July where you're getting kind of close to the nitty-gritty where things are coming down to the wire. So Warren wants to leave no doubts. And at the end of the day, he's been fantastic so far, as is Cam Schlittler. Like to move on to the guy who pitched the day before him, Schlittler made his debut against the Tampa Bay Rays. And I mean, he also was just terrific. Only went 2 1/3. Again, it's a pitch count thing. So it's not like he was in trouble and they pulled him. Goes 2 1/3, only gives up 2 hits, strikes out 4, gave up 1 walk, but still that walk really is not the end of the world. I did want to mention too with Ryan Weathers, the thing with his strikeouts was interesting is he struck out 2 batters in the first inning and then just had that disastrous thing later on. Schlittler was a lot more well-balanced, which is exactly what you want to see. And just to kind of last thing about the starting pitching is like, I think Schlittler's going to keep doing this. He's going to just keep pitching 2, 3 innings. We know they're going to try and work up his pitch count moving forward. But I think later in the year, what could be like a really fun dynamic duo, now that we've kind of spitballed it, is you start Schlittler and then have Ryan Weathers coming after. Like you could have Schlittler go 3, 4, whatever he's kind of comfortable. And obviously, the longer you go in the season, the deeper he's going to be able to go in games. But there's always going to be times where a pitcher can only go 3 innings. And then you're like, what do we do? We're 7 days without a break. We have no one. I think Schlittler and Weathers deep in the year, that could be a killer combo where you go 4 innings from Schlittler, 3 from Weathers, like just kind of thinking ahead to the future. But I mean, even Warren and Weathers too could be really fun. But Schlittler, I think sky's the limit with him once again. And it was great to see him back in action.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was so worrying when they heard that he was having back pain and wasn't able to. I think he didn't throw for almost a week and then hadn't started a game until this past Friday. So him having such a good game is like just music to our ears, and it's the sort of thing I think that we've come to expect from him. He's not going to have these sort of amazing shutout games every single time, but we know that he's able to throw strikeouts. I was reading some analysis on the pitches that he was throwing, and he's really been utilizing his cutter, which has gotten a lot faster. And it was just absolutely messing batters up. They could not get a single hit in, it felt like, although technically they did get, I believe, two.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was just great. I think he's a great pitcher. I think that he has a high ceiling, and it will be really cool to see where it goes. And I think you make a really good point, because if you are in those long stretches where you have game after game after game, maybe you do have to put someone in who pitched 5 days ago. But if you have the depth to pull them after 3, 4 innings and put in another player that can pitch another solid 3 or 4, and then have David Bednar close for an inning, that is so much better than being like, all right, well, let's hope Cam can do 95 pitches again, because we don't have any other options and our bullpen depth is thin. I think their bullpen depth is thin.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly, the Yankees don't agree, but that's what I think.
They'll learn the hard way.
Yeah, just like last season, they're going to learn the hard way. And I think that, if we see them being really active at the trade deadline, that won't be very surprising, because that's what they like to do. Instead of trying to anticipate issues and meet them there, they will wait for the issues to pop up, and then that last day in July be like, oh God, we have to make a bunch of deals.
Mm-hmm.
But taking it away from July and bringing it to today, we have Randall Gerchuk's debut today, and Max Fried is scheduled to pitch.
Yes, so Fried, obviously, it's going to be good to see him back on the bump. Again, all these guys are on a pitch count, so you would love to see him match a 4-inning performance. But if he has a 25-pitch first inning, like, Boone's going to be a lot more careful with them, because they stick to a number, whatever it is. It's obviously different for pitchers who are in different spots. Fried is going to have a little bit more leverage than a guy like Schlittler, who was just coming off an injury. And even though it wasn't a major injury, it's still something in spring. You're not going to have a guy go out there, pitch 6 innings, and throw his arm out and be out for the year. So, and that's the last thing they want to do with Fried. Obviously, playing a Pittsburgh Pirates squad that is going to have some of the top prospects in the game, of course, and it's going to be fun to see how those match up. But I think the big key here is Randall Gerchuk and how he's going to look in his spring training debut and his Yankees debut after being a long dubbed the Yankees killer and everything in his career. It's going to be interesting to see him wear the pinstripes for the first time, because this team, they've had a lot of moving parts towards opening day, where who's going to make that final roster. Obviously, Oswaldo Cabrera, he just came back. He had one at-bat, which I found very interesting. He only had one at-bat against the Rays. He walked, did score, though, which was cool. He was later replaced by top prospect George Lombard. But you've got a guy like Cabrera. You've got a guy like Grichuk. You've got guys like Jason Dominguez, Paul Goldschmidt, JC, everyone fighting for those last roster spots. And, I mean, we know there's going to be a backup catcher. We know there's going to be Goldschmidt. Do they put an outfielder in Jason Dominguez? Do they go Grichuk? Where do they do there? And then what do you do with the infield? You've got Ahmed Rosario. You've got Cabrera. There's so many options to kind of round things out. Someone's going to have to start in AAA. That's how it is at the end of the day. And there's really nothing any of these players can do about it, because it might not be ideal. And especially a guy like Grichuk, 34 years old, that's not what he wanted to come to the Yankees for, but you got to earn it, buddy. Like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of talent on this team. There's a lot of depth, and it's just a matter of what they want to do. I mean, let's look at him in particular, though, and just kind of what he's done specifically in the outfield, because he is very versatile. Right field is kind of his mainstay, 580 games in right. He started 441 of those. Center field, 470 games in his career, started 425 of those. And then in left, 215 games played, started 176 of those. So, I mean, he has played every spot in the outfield, makes him a little bit more versatile than a guy like Dominguez, even though Jason is a switch hitter, which definitely helps. Grichuk is a righty, which, again, the Yankees were talking about. We want to go out and get a right-handed outfielder. Thought they were going to sign like maybe more of a notable name than a guy who's kind of bounced around quite a few teams recently. I mean, he was with the St. Louis Cardinals for forever. Then he went to the Blue Jays for quite a bit, had a little bit of time with the Rockies, then the Diamondbacks, then the Royals. So, I mean, he's been around the block these last few years, but still, like, for him to make his spring debut, he doesn't have a lot of time. Kind of the key right now. His time is ticking, right? Like if you got opening day on the 25th, that leaves just about 2 weeks for Grichuk to kind of carve his way into the opening day roster. I don't think he's going to make it. I think that's a very long shot. Obviously, they gave him the invite. They wanted to see what he's capable of, but he hasn't shown enough, especially recently, to be like, all right, this guy's got sustained success. We can justify bringing him in over Dominguez, who's our guy who we really started banking on to kind of pull things around. But a negative 0.8 WAR last year with a 6.74 OPS. That was down from 8.75 was his OPS in 2024. If he's consistently a plus 800 OPS guy, like, all right, this could be someone we definitely want to work with. Sure, he's a veteran. Sure, he's certainly hit a lot against the Yankees in his career, but until we can see a lot more out of Grichuk, I don't think there's a way you can justify putting him on the opening day roster.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think that it's maybe a little bit less of a long shot. It seems like the team is really keen on him. Boone seems really keen on him. But I agree. There's just because you're a veteran, there is no guarantee. And I think that he really will have to prove himself. Although I think that they have the capacity to surprise you. 34 is certainly not the oldest a baseball player can be, even though it
Yeah.
must feel like it.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be interesting to see. Dominguez has some struggles, he even has some struggles fielding sometimes. But he is a switch hitter, like you said, which I think the Yankees find really valuable. And yeah, I'm just curious to see how it goes. But time, like you said, really is ticking. He has to show up and show out at every given opportunity in order to earn that roster spot. Because, like you said, someone has to start in the AAA. I kind of maybe even see it being Dominguez. I feel like
Mhm.
that might be even just better for the team dynamic, and then give it a little bit of a chance and see what needs to happen. But you never know. And I think that I'll be curious to see how he performs today. Certainly, I think that he has a good chance the Pirates are not starting one of their better most known pitchers. Paul Skeens isn't pitching.
Right.
So certainly that will give him a little bit of an advantage when it comes to having a good game today. But I agree with you. He really has to prove himself. He's not a given. And it seems like the Yankees are really waiting to feel him out as well, because ultimately they do have Dominguez who could take the roster spot. They have other players who could substitute in the outfield if they had to. So I for sure don't think that he is a done deal. But another thing that I'll be curious about this game today is Max Fried's first start, which I believe was last week, didn't go as well as you would think it would. Even he said that he had a quote after the game where he was like, it just wasn't happening for me today, which we talked about last week being a good thing for a pitcher to be able to admit. So hopefully he's feeling a little bit better, a little bit more in the groove, and has a more solid start, because I do think that that game last week was a bit worrying. He had quite a few walks, I believe 4 walks last week. And yeah, I think they need Freed to be as amazing as he possibly can be. There's just no other option, especially with all of the pitching injuries that we've talked about. Yeah, they just need him to be on his A game. And if he's not, that's concerning.
Yeah, I mean, that's your guy, right? That's number one. Obviously, it was good to see him back on the mound, but if you're going to be giving up 95 walks, I mean, no one's going to want to see you as an ace on this team. And again, it was one spring training game. Like, it's not, you can't overreact. You can't. I'm far more concerned about Ryan Weathers than I am Max Fried. Like, obviously, that's very justifiable to say that, but it's just when you're a guy like Max Fried, the expectations are sky high, right? And I think the main key is he pitched in an exhibition game against Panama. So, like, this is his quote unquote official spring training debut, but 3 walks, coming off a game against a Panama squad that the Yankees dominated, right? I mean, they beat them 11-1, so it's not like Fried was an issue and they didn't win the game, but 3 innings, 3 walks. I mean, it is what it is. That was his first appearance. I think just the overall vibe and atmosphere of that game is a complete 180 on not even what you're getting from a spring training game, but just any sort of live action in general. Like a spring training game will get you far more amped up than a World Baseball Classic exhibition. Like I like what they did with those games. I think it was cool to kind of get some new countries into the mix, get some attendance up across some ballparks, but like that doesn't count in my opinion. Like it really doesn't. Like that's why you can't find his numbers really anywhere from that game, is because it was a true exhibition. So 3 walks in 3 innings is what it is. But now let's see what he can do against the Pirates. Because again, if you want to be the Yankees #1, it's not going to be looking like that, right? So the Yankees starting pitching depth is second to none, in my opinion, in what they have. That obviously you've got teams like the Dodgers or any of those who are going to throw out at just a tremendous 1-5 and could go 6-7 deep on any day of the week. But we've talked about the Yankee starting rotation a lot, especially this episode, which I think is a good thing because we're only going to talk about them when there's something to talk about, right? And if you've got a lot of guys, sure, we mentioned one guy who struggled in this episode, but the rest, I think it was all very, very solid, and it gives Yankees fans a lot to look forward to in a year where the sky's the limit. Again, potential's through the roof. You've got a lot of guys. You want to run it back. All right, let's see what you can really do. They're 10-5 right now in spring training. The Pirates are 11-5. So on the surface, this is actually a really good game. And Fried will be going up against Jose Urquidy. See if I pronounced that one right for the Pirates.
Yeah, I think that whoa, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I think that you're right. We will only be talking about it when there's something to talk about. And right now, it's one of the biggest storylines for the Yankees. And speaking actually of national teams, a quick World Baseball Classic recap before we're done for the day. Jazz Chisholm Jr.'s Great Britain has officially been eliminated. They lost 2 straight in pool play, so they officially will not be moving on, which I think is a bit, of a bummer for Jazz because he's such a I don't want to say audacious player, but he has such a personality and such a strong belief in himself, which I think is amazing. That it's sort of a bummer to not be able to see him play anymore. But they'll finish out pool play, I believe, and then they won't be moving on. And then the other most exciting news from the WBC is Aaron Judge. He's the captain of Team USA, which had a great weekend. I think they pulled off some good wins. I believe they're certainly not eliminated from the next stage of play. And yeah, there's been obviously some criticism online that Judge is like a boring or weak leader of the team, which I think is a little bit interesting because to me, that just seems like who he is as a person. Not boring, but very cool and collected, very calm. He's not a particularly flashy personality. I don't think that that's his style. He's very much steady. I think that that's the way he likes to captain. And I think that he likes to lead by example. So if he wants the rest of his teammates to be approaching something in a certain way, he's going to model that behavior. And maybe that doesn't come through in these very big, bold speeches that he's making to his teammates about, winning the World Baseball Classic for Team USA. But I definitely think that he is someone that his teammates feel good about going to and asking questions to and mentoring younger guys. So I honestly think that the hate about that is a little overblown. And I think that it's just people who don't like that he's one of the best players in baseball, if not the best player in baseball. It seems to me to be a little bit overwrought.
Yeah, I think it's the media perception and the player perception are two completely different things. You aren't seeing, I mean, the speech he gave, like, this is the age of social media where everything is filmed, everything is published. 10 years ago, if there was a big speech going down, like, you're not seeing that posted anywhere. Like, that's for the players. Like, that's a players only thing. He's firing the guys up, and good for him, right? Like, Aaron Judge doesn't care what the general population thinks about what he has to say to fire the guys up for the World Baseball Classic. It was funny because the Yankees posted reel. I think I saw it on Instagram where they were asking everyone who their favorite princess was, and Aaron Judge said Belle. So it's funny to just like picture him being the guy like reading a book all around camp and everything, like going around. But like he is who he is, and you can't take anything away from that. Like Aaron Judge is the captain of not only the Yankees but Team USA, and they picked that for a reason. They aren't making him the captain because he hits 90 million home runs. They're making him the captain because the guys believe in him. They want to be around him. So like that's the big thing at the end of the day. Who cares what everyone thinks about what Aaron Judge is as a captain? They picked him for a reason. Like they weren't drawing names out of a hat. It isn't a participation trophy. Like Aaron Judge is number one, and he's going to be number one for probably quite a few years yet. And until someone can stop him or say, hey, you're not doing well, like you're causing problems in the locker room or whatever, like that's never going to be an issue. I don't think, like, unless all of a sudden he has 100 home run season and he becomes the most out of the world guy and he's just not the same person. But like it's just blown out of proportions. Aaron Judge is a great captain, and this one speech, you can't base it off one speech. Like he's doing his thing. And yeah, he struggled in the second game against Great Britain, but like he's doing fine. Team USA is doing fine, and there's nothing to worry about. I think they play Mexico tonight, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure basically one more win will get him into that round of 8 stage. It was just funny because Jazz said we're going to shock the world, and well, you didn't shock anyone but yourself. You went 0 for 2 and you're out. So, but it's
Yeah,
just fun to follow these guys in the WBC.
I think it's really telling that, I think Aaron Judge is sort of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If he had this sort of big, arrogant, show-stopping personality, he would be criticized for that too. So it's like there's no way to win, I think,
Right.
with media perception. And some people just hate the Yankees, and they just hate him because he's an amazing player. And the Yankees lucked out that they were able to draft him like 31st, maybe, or 32nd. And you know, sure, but the guy's undeniable, and I think that his leadership is undeniable, even if that leadership is a little bit more reserved and pulled back from a fan or media perspective. Clearly, the guys respond to him, and he, like you said, is selected as captain for a reason. So we'll see how they play in their game tonight, but I would not necessarily be worried about Team USA or think, oh, Aaron Judge's captaincy is going to be the thing that prevents the US from winning the WBC. Like,
No,
it's just not, it's just silly. It's not a great video to watch on Twitter, but
it was a painful watch. Like it was pretty. Like I got secondhand embarrassment from it, but it's just who cares at the end of the day. Like they
yeah.
probably told him he probably already gave a speech and they told him, all right, give one more for the boys. We got to post this one on Twitter. Like I don't know.
And I think it's tough when the comparison is Otani's speech about like, you know, normally these are guys that you admire and respect, but today they're guys that we have to like destroy for the glory of our country.
Mhm.
Which is it's amazing. It's you watch it and you're like, whoa, I want to play for Team Japan in the WBC. So certainly that's more impassioned, but yeah, I agree. It's just a non-issue. Who
No, not at
cares?
all. It's really at the end of the day, it's nothing. I did look up too, just our final thing here before we wrap this episode up. Jose Urquidy, his ERA, he's pitched 1 1/3 innings. His ERA is 20.25. So Randall Grichuk, I am looking for 5 home runs out of you against this man tonight. Let's see what happens, but can't wait to see him. Can't wait to see Max Fried, and we'll be back on Thursday, another episode, all Yankees talk.
Yeah, we are almost at 100 subscribers, so don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find us, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.